On this week's episode of the RAG podcast, I was joined by Chris Abbass. Chris is the co-CEO and founder of Talentful. Talentful are probably one of the most well-known brands in the recruitment market today. They have an innovative model. They're an agency, but also an in-house business. So effectively, they put recruitment agents on site, in-house, in high-growth tech companies, and they don't offer or charge performance fees. It's all on a monthly recurring revenue basis, helping businesses grow and scale with the benefits of an agency, but also the qualities and knowledge of an in-house team. Chris started the business 4 years ago. They've now got 150 staff, and they're going to do 9 million in gross profit this year. Incredible. Offices in Manchester, London, a small office in Manchester, opened in Berlin 6 months ago, and they're just about to move to San Francisco. Chris has been involved in all of it and is actually moving to San Fran to take the business forward there next year. We squeezed him in before he goes away, and I think it's been great to listen to the genuine reality of the story because they've got a brand that everyone knows. I hear a lot of people talking about. So he tells us all, and how one of the things I learned was actually he's motivated by the fact that he could lose everything, as opposed to it all being about the big glorified stories of where he could end up. He's actually a really humble, down-to-earth guy who just wants to keep moving forward and make sure he doesn't lose what he's built. So I don't think there's anyone who won't like him after this episode. He's a genuinely great guy. This is one to listen to and take the time. It's a little bit longer. It's about an hour and 20, but I hope you really, really enjoy and get a lot of learnings from it. So without further ado, Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here, mate.
Good to have you in.
Yeah.
Squeezed you in before you you left the country.
Yeah, jet setting off to San Francisco.
When you headed?
January. Yeah, we've just actually come back on Monday, meeting a few clients, doing a few interviews. We hired our first person in the States, which is great.
Sure you don't want to move to Bethnal Green instead?
It's tempting.
It's tempting.
Yeah.
It's tempting. Well, look, Chris, I always do an intro, but I can never do it justice. So can you, for the listeners, just give a quick introduction to who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, so I'm Chris. I'm one of the founders of Talentful and co-CEO. We're essentially an on-demand recruitment solution for high-growth tech companies. And what that means is we place on-site recruitment teams into those businesses that really embed, kind of blend in with the culture, build relationships, and they're as effective as they possibly can be. We typically save companies money, time, and hire them better quality candidates. And then in addition to all of that stuff, we provide a suite of services, whether it be our production studio that can build kind of employer branding content for those brands, or interview training, onboarding, unconscious bias and diversity training, and really kind of scaling those teams up to be the best recruitment functions in the world.
Wow. That's the
elevator
I like
pitch.
that end. I like the end of that. Best in the world. Well, look, I'd go as far to say as you're one of the most spoken about brands in the industry right now. Mm-hmm. I think your name comes up on a call most weeks with me, with other organizations saying we've seen what Talentful, we're inspired by Talentful. So firstly, I'd like to say well done.
Thanks,
you've clearly done something well. If you haven't heard of Talentful, I don't know where you've been, but we'll tell you a bit more in this episode. So take us back, Chris. Let's go back. So you're 4 years old, you said, right?
4 years, yeah.
So end of 2015.
Yep.
Yeah. So when did you know you were going to start Talentful, and how did it even begin?
So I'm an agency recruiter.
Yeah.
First off, mainly from a technology recruitment background, and then I went in-house. So I went to Shazam, the music recognition company, and led tech recruitment in-house. Then I went to Audible and led non-tech recruitment.
Sorry to stop you. Why did you go in-house?
So I guess I'd been a recruiter for a while. I spent about 4 years in agency, and I really wanted to do something a bit different. I think I wanted to have an impact. I wanted to really be on the ground, understanding what made a business tick, build the relationships with the hiring managers. I think one of the things that I got really frustrated with is the lack of control and the lack of commitment from the client.
Yeah.
I did a music degree. The opportunity at Shazam came up. They're actually a client of mine.
Really?
So it was like a bit of a dream.
You look like a musician.
Yeah.
The tattoos, the rings, the coat. You could be definitely be a rock star.
I'm definitely a failed rock star.
Really?
Yeah, dream sometimes about being on stage, but alas, I'm in recruitment.
Yeah. That is always a musician's second option. Yeah, exactly. Always fall back for recruitment.
Exactly. We've actually got a Talentful band, which I'm trying to be on Britain's Got Talent
Are
soon.
you in it? Are you the lead singer?
I'm a drummer.
Drummer?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
We're pretty good.
JJ
actually.
makes his own music, so we could start the Hoxo brand, couldn't we? Yeah. He makes all sorts of beats.
We could have a band off.
Yeah, we could.
I guess it just came up at the right time. I knew the hiring manager, a guy called Ryan Broad, who brought me in and had an interview and got the job, and haven't looked back from there, really.
Wow. So you go in, was it a contract role then?
It was contract, yeah, day rate. Ended up being there for a year and a half. Worked with a really amazing manager, a lady called Ruth Penfold,
right.
Who then went on to Fido, and now she's at BT. But she was a great person for me to be under for the first time in-house. But I think one of the things that I was really surprised about going in-house is just the advantages you have as an in-house recruiter. You know, you have the brand behind you, you have access to the managers, you have the ability, if you're proactive, to make things happen quickly. And I just thought to myself, in such a competitive market, why wouldn't you have these advantages at your disposal?
Yeah.
You know, and so at the time I was working in these companies and noticing that there was brands out there, there was companies mainly at an early stage, so Series A, seed stage, getting funding rounds and needing that capital to grow. But at the time, they had a lot of volatility in their hiring plans. They couldn't forecast past 3-6 months. So for them, hiring a permanent in-house team didn't make sense. Using agencies didn't make sense to them either, because they didn't want to spend the money, frankly, and they wouldn't get the support to kind of set up the function and build the process, all that kind of stuff. So myself and my co-founder Phil thought, okay, there's an opportunity here for a flexible recruitment solution that could work with those early stage companies, set them up for success and help them grow. How
did you know Phil?
So weirdly, we didn't really know each other before we started Talentful. It was a real leap of faith, right? And it's worked out really well. He's now one of my best mates.
So were you working together at all, or?
No, so I don't know if you've heard of DBR.
No.
So it started off as a group of people at the pub in Shoreditch, in-house recruiters.
Right.
And then it turned into a WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a Slack channel. And now there's thousands of in-house recruiters on this Slack channel.
Really? Wow.
All talking, all communicating, all helping each other out. It's an amazing place. Especially if you've got kind of your first in-house role, and you're looking for advice, you're looking for support. And we met through that. And Phil was actually about to go contracting at a company called Thought Machine, who are one of our clients. And he wanted just some advice about, general contracting stuff.
Yeah.
So we met for a pint.
Classic,
yeah. All the best conversations happen and best ideas come from the pub. And we just got talking about, our ideas, our experiences. And we thought this is really something that could fly and could work.
When was that? Can you remember when that time was?
So that was about, I think, August time.
Yeah. So 3-4 months before.
Yeah. And then we thought, okay, let's just go for it. And at the time I was contracting at Audible. Phil was contracting at Thought Machine. And so our contracts were coming up for renewal. So we switched those contracts to Talentful, which was actually a really, looking back, it was an awesome thing.
Well, so you launched a business and then basically just moved your current contracts into that business.
Yeah.
And how did you even do that?
So just have the conversations with the clients. And luckily I had a great relationship with the client. I'd done a good job. And it was really just saying, look, this is something I'm doing. Would this work for you? And being flexible as well with it, So I actually stayed on site with a client 2 days a week for the first year of the business. So I was, on the tools, recruiting, building the teams out for probably about the first year.
So you and Phil, I want to just go back. Like, where did you said you both spotted the same problem?
Yeah.
But being an in-house recruiter and building out a complete business full of them is two different things, right?
Yeah.
So what was the first iteration of a business plan? What did it look like?
Yeah. So, I think this is another advantage of going in-house, is that you're exposed to all the different business functions.
Yeah.
So, I was recruiting across marketing, product, sales, analytics.
So it wasn't all tech,
Q&A. No. And so that gave me real insight just in terms of how businesses work. I was working with really awesome people, who are top of their game, really great talent, who are leading these functions. And you kind of learn by osmosis. You learn by seeing what they're doing, how they're setting up their functions, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well. And I think in general, recruitment is a great industry to be in, to have that exposure.
Sure.
And so I picked up some ideas from there. And I guess I really loved my agency days. I think there's a lot of great stuff about agencies, but there's a lot of crap stuff as well. there's a lot of great stuff about Inhouse, but there's also some crap stuff about Inhouse. So we wanted to kind of blend the two together. One of the things I loved about agency is the group of people, the support network. You've got all the similar kinds of people doing the same stuff on the same journey, facing the same challenges, and being in that environment is important.
Super entrepreneurial, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, do you think you'd have ever done it had you never been in an agency?
Mm-mm.
Because I just my opinion, and again, anyone can pop back at me if they want, but I don't think the in-house market looks as entrepreneurial as the agency market, right? So you imagine the shitloads of in-house recruiters with more experience than you two had.
Yeah.
Maybe it was because you'd had the agency life that gave you that confidence to go, well, commercially we can go out and win business.
Yeah.
Now we know how to deliver. Mm-hmm. They're the two things we need, really.
Yeah, I have no doubt that if I hadn't been in agency, we wouldn't have been as successful.
Yeah.
I think in agency you learn urgency, you learn pace, you learn how to hit targets.
Commercial deals, isn't it?
Yeah, commercial deals. You've got to build to make money and survive, and I think that's really important. And you learn structure, you learn that it's a numbers game, and those things are things that people forget when they go into an in-house environment, I think, a lot of the time. And our strategy for growing Talentful has been spot the diamonds out of agency who have the potential and have, because it's not always the case that the top billers and agencies fit our model.
No.
So it's finding, those people.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't have fit your model.
Yeah.
I was billing 700 grand, but
yeah,
the thought of just being with one client would kill me.
Exactly.
It'd fucking burn me away. So I can see why it's almost. Where did you get the name from?
Talentful. Oh, so this is Phil actually. So Phil used to have basically it was Phil's contracting company. So he used to have a company called Sonder Talent, and that was his initial name. Sonder, yeah.
There's a musician called Sonder.
What's there? I don't know.
There is now, yeah.
I think Phil just dreams these things up. Right. And then he actually did have a dream, and Talentful came to him in this dream.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Sounds like, is it a real word? Talentful?
No, I don't think so, no. But I remember when he said it, I was like, that is the one. That is such a great name. And then we just changed the...
Have you got the .com as well?
Got the .com. We had it was an absolute nightmare getting it. We had to buy it off some guy.
Really?
Yeah.
A couple of grand or whatever.
Yeah, well, it started at that. And then when he knew we were interested, he started hiking the price up. Yeah. No. So, but we finally got it. We just used to have talentful.co.
Yeah.
And then we thought, as we're growing, let's get it whilst we can.
Because there'll be a lot more in a few years.
Exactly.
So if we go back to the start then, what month did you launch, officially change those contracts over?
So our first official client was in November. So it was around November where we switched the clients over. We signed our first client called Magic Pony Technology and helped build out their kind of research engineering function. We got that client through a relationship with a VC, which is a really good proof point for us because they were super high tier. They then sold to Twitter.
Wow.
And that, I think, gave us a bit of a name in that space. And the startup sector in general, and the reason why we went after it as our main client base initially was they're usually early adopters. So they normally try new ideas, they're more innovative, they want to save money. So that's how we got in. And then as you do a good job for these companies, it's relatively incestuous,
Yeah.
Everyone speaks, they have CTO Slack groups, CEO Slack groups, and they're all speaking about providers. So we just kind of spread from there on out.
The two of you flipped your contracts. You both had jobs then.
Yep.
So how do you get a new client? How did you structure, or did you drop one to take the other? How did that work?
So I was doing 2 days on site. The rest of the days I was in the Talentful office at the time. It was just like a tiny little room. Yeah. And then Phil actually dropped down to 1 day.
Right.
So that allowed us to focus partly on the business, but still have some revenue coming in. Then we made our first hire before Christmas.
Who was that?
A girl called Gemma.
Right.
She was a junior recruiter. And then we hired a couple of more people before the end of the year. I remember, so one of my marketing directors at Audible left to go to Zopa. Mm-hmm. And she had an urgent requirement to build out her marketing team before Christmas. And so she was like, Chris, come in and help me do this. So I went in there to Zopa. They just raised a huge funding round. And it was apparent that the internal setup they had wasn't going to deliver those hires. So I basically proposed to them they should have a Talentful team for the next year, so for 2016. and we managed to pitch a team of 3 people on site with Zopa, which for us at the time was crazy. It was a big deal. And I remember, we put the price forwards, and to us it seemed crazy, the pricing at that time. And we're like, they're not going to go for it. And they actually pushed back and said, that's too expensive. And I was like, okay, let me come in and talk to you about this on Monday. So turned up at the office on Monday, and the hiring manager who we were dealing with turned up and said, actually, let's get you signed up. I just got 3 invoices from agencies, and it makes your pricing look like nothing. So I remember calling Phil before Christmas and saying, we've got the client. And then we hired the team, and we started in January. But that was really, I think, when we saw that, okay, there's really legs in this, this could really be something.
How do you, because the agency, obviously, because you're not on site, you've got the flexibility to deal with so many clients.
Yeah.
Your model's positive and negative in that way, because you are restricted by talent, aren't you? And you've obviously, if you've not got the client base, the talent needs to go almost, because there is no contingency in what you do. So how did you get off the ground and manage to sell, deliver for the clients you were looking at, as well as train the new people? How did you even do that?
Yeah, it's a very tricky situation, and resourcing in general is a real challenge for Talentful, and just talent, they're hiring the best people, because when someone's on site with a client, they're incredibly exposed. They don't have managers to hide behind. They're on the ground, face to face with the hiring managers. So you need people who are really switched on, who can represent the brand, how you'd like it to be represented. So what we did typically is it was just managing the expectation with the client. So saying, okay, we'll sign this client and this will be our start date, and it could be 4 to 6 weeks out. And then because we've not got a pot of cash, we're not funded, the most risk averse way of doing it is then to hire for that team.
Give yourself that 4 to 6 weeks to do it.
And then we'd go out and we'd headhunt from our networks.
But do you not think was getting an agency recruiter to go in on, because they've never done on site?
Yeah,
there's got to be a bit of work to be done there as well. Not only finding them, but then getting them modeled in a way that you want them to be.
Definitely. So the first person we hired to lead that Zopa account already had an in-house experience. Right. So they had a significant amount of in-house experience, which for us was a strategy, because we knew if we put him on the account as the lead, we can put some agency people underneath him, and they can be trained up. And really, and I think this is something I tell to everyone that's interviewing at Talentful, that the difference between agency and in-house isn't vast. It's some nuance and some different challenges, and you have to change your way of thinking, I think, more than anything else. But you can scale that up relatively quickly. If someone's smart, they're switched on, they've got a problem-solving mindset. So really, it was about providing the infrastructure and the support around those people to scale up quickly, and the exposure. And that's been a real strategy for us moving forward. We've hired a head of L&D from Bloomberg and Amazon who has built out kind of training programs for our people. So everyone that joins the business, they have a 2-week intensive training program, regardless of level, regardless of where they've come from, to learn about how Talentful do things. And then they're continuously trained. So we have external management training, we have stakeholder training, we have commercial training.
That's all now, but what was it like? Let's go back through to year one. You start.
I've erased it from our memory.
It's all. We'll build up to that. So you go into the new year. You're a couple of months old. You've got how many clients?
So let's
3
say,
or 4?
2 or 3 clients.
Right, and one of them's got 3 on site. So you fill that team. How did the rest of that? How did that year progress?
Yeah, so taking a step back, we didn't always just have the in-house model.
Okay.
So that has really been an evolution. So we used to have the in-house model only. Then we used to have what was called Basecamp, and that was still a subscription monthly fee, but it was for companies at the time who maybe didn't have the volume of hires needed to have a full-time team on site. So that might be like 1 or 2 roles, 3 roles, whatever. And we deliver that mainly from our offices.
Right.
And
that gave you the flexibility to work with more people.
Yeah. And really kind of start getting cash in the bank, start getting a name, start getting some traction.
Still no fee, no performance fee involved.
No performance fee. So it was a flat monthly cost.
Yeah.
Based on the volume of roles.
Was there any pushback on that?
Yeah. I think, traditionally, buyers of recruitment are used to buying it in a certain way. Well, only contingency, no win, no fee, which I think is mental. And I think that a lot of the problems we see in recruitment are because of that model. Because if I'm a recruiter, no one's given me commitment really, unless I've got a retainer, which is rare, especially in tech recruitment. So what's my incentive to have a quality focus on that client? It's not there because I've not got the commitment. So I actually think the way clients want to work with recruiters perpetuates this like negative stereotype, which I just disagree with completely. But it is something you have to get over. And for us, it was initially about providing comfort to those clients that we deliver. So we used to have KPIs, SLAs, we used to have rebates in the contract for the eventuality that we didn't perform. Which was something we had to do to start because we had to build a reputation, we had to build case studies, we had to build all that kind of stuff. So we had a lot more flexibility at the start. I mean, this is, everyone who's building their business, you have to have that flexibility and you have to back yourself when you start because I think if you go in with a very hard line, you're never going to grow as quickly as you need to, right? So we were willing to take a hit and to, put our money wherever our mouth was and make that commitment to clients. And then when we got to a point where we were like, okay, we've proven ourselves enough times now, we've got the infrastructure, we've got the support and the confidence to know we can deliver every time, we removed that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So how did that year go?
Yeah, really well. I think we grew to about, I think it was about 25 people.
Wow.
In that first year.
Were you still on the tools delivering for any?
Yeah, up until the end of that year.
Yeah, same as Phil.
Phil, he was for a bit, but then he came off. He was on for about 6 months, and then he came off fully. I think it was important to have that focus, and I think be in the business, fully, because there's a lot of just operational stuff that takes up a lot of time, and we've always been of the mindset that every penny we spend is important. So we waited as long as possible for like office managers and internal recruiters and all that kind of stuff. We were doing that ourselves for the first year. Yeah. So really, it was a cost benefit to have Phil in the business.
What did you make? What was the revenue in year one?
I think it was about. We didn't do a full year. We calendar year wise, it was about 570K.
Right. Good start to but with 25 staff, there's a lot of cost in there, right?
Yeah, I think that was about 9 months, and obviously 25 was only at the end.
Yeah.
So that team scaled, but then we did about 1.7, then we did about 4.5, then we did we're on track to do like 9.
Wow.
So
the growth has been double almost.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So how did you feel at the end of that first year then? So you've done 570, you've got 25 people. You must feel at that point like, I've proven this. There's something in this now. Like we believed it, but now we know this has got legs.
Yeah.
What was it like, you and Phil sitting down after a year?
Well, it's weird, and I think this is something that kind of, I guess, motivates me. But I'm always paranoid that it could fuck up at any moment, right? And that it could end at any moment. And
I'm that kind of guy.
and I think that's a good thing in a way, but it's also a bad thing because you never stop and pat yourself on the back and say, well, great work, And I think that is something that me and Phil really have started to try to actively do. But in that first couple of years, we were just fully focused on what does the next year look like? What does the next couple of months look like? How do we correct all the mistakes that we've made? How do we improve the service? How do we become the best in this market? And I don't think at the end we really looked back and like, yeah, this is a good job.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you, when you look back now on year one, what was the hardest bit about it? Because that is probably the biggest question I get from this podcast is what am I going to expect in year one?
Yeah. So I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but for us, when we were setting up a business, I think the main concern you have is, can we make money? Can we keep the doors open? Can we pay salaries? And I take that as a really personal responsibility, to pay people's salaries and be responsible for those people's livelihood. But really, that wasn't the issue for us. We've always been able to generate business and get clients on board. It was really the people aspect of the business for us, which is hard when you're scaling quickly, when you're bringing new people into the business from different environments, different personalities. Getting that engagement getting that structure, making sure that you're building this high performance culture, retention, all that kind of stuff. It's really hard to figure out, communication, how you communicate, how you set up structure and process so everyone feels like they're part of the journey and they're well informed. And I think that, for us, I think there's this notion that in a startup, everyone wants to have this like total autonomy and they don't want any process or structure, and they just want to do what they want and leave them to it. And I actually think that's quite a dangerous narrative, because as we've experienced, we've gone through this rapid scale, and you get to a point where people are like, I need process, I need structure, because otherwise what the hell is going on? And if you try and retrofit that, it's a lot harder than if you implemented it from the beginning. So I feel like just being very conscious
Did you get that wrong, do you think, at the start?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much stuff you get wrong, and I think it's natural, right? But I think as long as you're constantly reflecting and like you're not afraid of making change, and you're open to listening to everyone in the business, and you're ready to challenge your own views. There's so many opinions I think I had about what it takes to run a business, or how to set up a business, or how to get the best out of people, or all these different things that have totally changed from my experience. And I think it's really important to just keep an eye on, is this actually working, and use data to inform your decisions. And I think that's something that we've really tried to do, is that, sometimes when you're in the thick of it and you're actually running a business, it's very emotional, and you can sometimes confuse your emotion and your opinion of something to the actual facts. Right. So I think using data and actually measuring things allows you to sit back and say, oh, well, actually, I'm totally wrong about this. It's actually working really well, or it's not working at all, and I'm stupid for doing that.
So what was your role like going into year 2? What were you doing?
So at say this first year, me and Phil were just doing everything together. And that was, from building office furniture to going client meetings, closing business. Now, as we got into the second year, the roles started to separate. And actually, that's a really challenging thing to do.
I remember the same thing.
To really like look at what as founders, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and what should you be focusing on, and then communicating that to the business so everyone knows, because also everyone else gets confused about what your job is. So I think you need to be clear with them as well. So we kind of separated the business out. So everything client facing was my responsibility. Everything back office and operations was Phil. So
sounds like me and Amma.
So I'm more of the like manage the client services, manage the sales, anything like that, partnerships. Phil was operations, marketing, finance, HR, recruitment, anything that sits in the back.
Sure. So did you hire salespeople to just win business, or was that always a responsibility of people that actually then went on site?
No. So I think this is another key selling point for the right people at Talentful, is that there's no BD required for them. We don't expect them to cold call or do any BD. Obviously, from our leads, there's a commercial responsibility they have. So it's more looking at opportunities within their clients, looking at upsell opportunities, looking at extensions, renewals, that kind of thing. But it's not hardcore.
So who was in year 2? Was it you then?
Me,
doing all the BD.
So it was me, going on pitches, phone calls, getting people through the funnel, and closing business.
Were you having to cold call and open doors, or was it starting to generate its own activity based on what you'd done in year 1?
So luckily, I think me and Phil had really good networks, because we've been in-house, we've been in DBR, we know a lot of people in internal recruitment and talent generally. So we used those networks firstly, and then there was like a snowball effect from that. So we got onto those initial clients, then we started to do a good job with those clients. Then your clients and your champions within those clients amplify you, right? And that's the best way of winning business. And most of about 90% of our business in the first 3 years came from recommendations and referrals. So a lot of inbound traffic, a lot of recommendations and referrals. So there was outreach, but it was very warm outreach. It was like, okay, I know this person. And
that's probably the biggest difference from the agency side. Like even moving into doing what we're doing at Hoxo, it's been a similar journey. Like quite cold at the beginning, made a load of noise on LinkedIn. Most people at first year or two just were like, what the fuck do you do? I've got no idea, but you're making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And now it's way more about the testimonials, referrals, inbound campaigns, all the rest of it. But most contingent agencies we talk to, depending on if they're a super candidate driven market, it doesn't really matter. They'll just know that they can send CVs out. But majority that have to win business, it doesn't come to them.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Like, they get the odd referral, but people go into their website, brands that have got no referral connection, how the hell are you going to get? They just don't get it. So I think it's testament to the fact you had such a different focus and you were probably, was there anyone else doing it when you started?
I think there was a few people doing versions of it, but not, we don't charge commission, we don't charge per placement fee. There wasn't anyone doing this pure subscription monthly flat cost. But going back to your point, I think this is why you guys are being so successful. And it's because I don't think recruitment companies in general have thought about their brand.
No.
And if you look at the recruitment industry, it's such a huge, valuable industry. And like, if I ask my mum, tell me a recruitment company or a cool brand in the recruitment sector.
No idea.
No idea. And that's mental. And I think that we saw that opportunity, and especially in the SME high growth tech space, to build this recruitment brand that was cool, that was synonymous with high growth tech companies.
Yeah.
And we really had a focus on that because, cost per acquisition wise, existing clients are the easiest clients to win, right?
100%.
And you should be doubling down on those clients and putting all your effort, or a lot of your effort, into upselling them, expanding them, building those. Yeah,
because imagine the clients you work with have multiple regions and stuff anyway, don't they? So it's not like, do you find though that my words are going. Do you find they develop hubs of certain types? So, for example, technology will come from the US or Eastern Europe. Sales might be on the ground. Marketing could be centralized. Do you have to land, even though you might be on site in Berlin or in London? Do you then have to navigate globally for clients as well?
Yeah. So initially, we were super naive to this stuff, right? And we didn't really have like a inside sales strategy or any strategy really. It was just speak to clients, sell them what we do, and try and get them signed
and deliver as many great candidates.
And now obviously it's become much more mature. We've built out our sales team. We have different verticals. So we have startup, scale up, and enterprise, and we have sales teams that sit across each.
How many's in the sales team now?
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 5.
Still not that big, is it?
No.
Think about it. That's what I love about what you've just said, because we've got a sales team of 2, and I'm one of them, right?
Yeah.
And in my budget to get to triple the company, it actually only gets to 6 salespeople, and the guy who helped us with the budget said, if your brand's good enough, it will sell itself.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking hell. He said, yeah, if you need someone to phone all day to sell what you do, your brand's not good enough.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. So that I imagine people think you've got this massive front line, like Talentful everywhere, when really your brand does a lot of it. So going back to year 2, you got 25 staff and your role's changing. Mm-hmm. How did that year then kick on, and what was the major differences in year 2?
So year 2, it was really building out, understanding. I think year 1 is really understanding who you are.
Yeah.
Understanding what your company does, what are the key selling points, what do clients love about your product, and productizing and building out, making sure the commercials work, setting up process framework, all that kind of stuff. And I think that year 2 was really just more of that, really professionalizing the service, improving, innovating, trying to smooth out any of the cracks that we had. And it was looking at how we drive performance in our recruiters and how we hire better, and towards the end of that year was a really kind of crucial turning point for us, because we stopped doing the offsite,
the base camp.
Yeah.
Did that take a while to make that decision?
Well, about 60% of our revenue was coming from that. So to just say, right, we're cutting this off, cutting off at the head, and we're saying, that's it, we're just not doing this anymore. We don't think it's the right way to work. We don't think it gets the best results. It was a big decision.
Were you getting smaller companies on that? Or was it just, were you going in with option 1 and option 2 and they were just choosing option 2?
No, it was just smaller companies.
Is it?
Yeah. And I think it's a lot harder to sell, on-site only 6-month contracts where you can say, okay, well, I'll just do 2 roles for you. It's a harder sell.
True.
So for us, it was crucial at the beginning, and we had to do it. But what you typically get into when you're dealing with that is a similar issue. I think contingency recruiters find is they viewed us just as like a cheaper agency, and they weren't giving us time, they weren't giving us commitment, they didn't see us as part of the brand. They weren't working as a team with us. We were seen as an external partner still, and so for us that was a big problem. And that's not how we believe recruitment should be done. It's a true partnership. It's everyone's responsibility in that company to hire these people, and we're just the experts in there. And I think that it wasn't viewed like that.
No.
And so any issues that we'd ever have would always come from that model.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Because of that, that friction that we're getting. So we decided, okay, this isn't working, or it's run its course. We've got to a point now where I think we've got enough case studies, we've got enough proof that we can do this, and enough confidence that we don't have to do it.
What did you do with the clients that were signed up?
So we finished. We rolled them off.
Let them finish. Just whatever they were on.
We filled the roles and then just said.
Did any of them upgrade to the other model?
Yeah. So we've had some of our clients we've had for 3 years, and they've come with us on that journey. We've started with them when they were in the startup sector, and now they're in the scale-up sector, and we've taken them from one to the other, and that's quite nice to do.
Well, I had today we released Lloyd Gordon's podcast, and he owns a company called Focus Cloud, and we've been with them a year. I think it was the 11th of November, and we've just signed another contract for the next year. But we've seen his business, although he's the same as you, 4 years old. They were just totally different, and his words were like, "I want you to be there at the end." Do you know what I mean? He feels like we're such a part of his company that he wants us to grow with him, and I think it's an amazing feeling when you can get that level of relationship.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about having that partnership. And similar to you're kind of insourcing your marketing functions,
exactly,
right? Yeah. And it's really nice to see the success of a company and be part of that and make an impact. And I think that...
Well, their results are your results.
Yeah, exactly.
It's no competition here. We're working together.
Yeah, exactly. And, incentives are totally aligned. If I'm on commission and I've got, an IB for holiday target, my focus is that. It's not really what's the best thing for the client. Whereas when it's a subscription or a monthly fee, that doesn't really matter anymore. It's just, okay, I'm getting paid. That's fine. How do I do the best job for you?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we implemented, towards the end of that year. I think a pushback and a challenge that we got from clients was, okay, you're doing a great job for this client, but how do I know you're doing a great job on all these other clients? Prove to me you're consistent. And so we're like, okay, how do we show that we're consistent? So we started sending net promoter scores to all of our clients. And I think we're the only recruitment company that do this, where every client that we have, the key stakeholder gets a net promoter score once a quarter, and it's 1 out of 10. Would you recommend Talentful? And we publish those results to our clients every quarter.
Wow.
And so that allows us to get over that objection of
we're doing the same thing. Like, we're literally just rolling that out right now.
It's really helpful.
Hopefully results are good.
Yeah. That's scary.
If you're listening, clients, please give us a good score.
I mean, the big thing though is anyone who's like an account manager or who is managing that relationship, they're going in from day one thinking, how do I get a 10 out of 10? And that's a shift in mindset.
Are they then bonused or rewarded off the back of feedback as opposed to commission of deals?
So their progression and so our people don't get bonuses, they don't get commission. But they have a very structured framework on progression and promotions, and net promoter score feeds into that, delivery feeds into that, and lots of competency. So are they running internal training sessions? Are they delivering added value for their clients? There's lots of different things that are driving that progression other than just placements.
Yeah. So end of year 2, you've changed the model, or you've gone balls deep with one model. Pardon the pun. And you've cut commissions. And where were you at that point? How many people?
So I think, when was it? So this is 2017. Is this?
Yeah. So you started in early 2016, right? Or end of 2015.
Yeah. So
Christmas 2017.
Yeah, I think we're about 50-ish people. Or
right.
Like
and what sort of, one thing we've not talked about is how your office progressed, because you've got this odd business where you've got loads of people, but not necessarily in the same place. So how do you balance that? How did you balance it in those first couple of years?
Yeah. So we're in this really unusual situation where at first we used to have all of our people in the Talentful office on Mondays and Fridays. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they were on site with their clients.
Yeah.
So we'd have this, crazy busy office for Monday and Fridays. And then it was like a ghost town midweek. Yeah. And office space is expensive in London, right?
Yeah.
So we used to do that. We did that for quite a while, actually. We did that until we moved into our new office in Shaftesbury Avenue. And then it just got to a point, it filled up really quickly. And we're like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. We've got a group of 60, 70 staff. And it's dead most of the week.
Yeah.
So what we started to do, and this is something that we implemented in this year, was the verticals. So startup, scale up, and enterprise. And so what we have now is shift patterns. So those verticals come in on different days.
Okay.
So
there's always a nice flow of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it manages the cost on the office space, and allows us to have. So our office needs to be the size of about 70% of our workforce, which is decent. It's a lot better than having an office that you're not using.
Yeah. So in the year going into year 3, then were you still in the previous offices and doing the old model of 3 days a week? Yeah. You sat at 50. So how did things progress in year 3?
Yeah. So we obviously doubled down on our on-site model, which was a really great decision.
But it focused just sales activity as well, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you've got one thing to sell, you'll fucking sell it. When you've got 2 things to sell, you'll sell 2 things.
Yeah, and it's not confusing for clients. And I think this is one of the big learnings I've had throughout this journey, is that focus is super important. Narrowing down your target customer to be as specific as you possibly can be is really important. And I think a lot of the errors I see in people generally building businesses, they try and boil the ocean. They try and do everything.
Yeah, we did that. We used to do the same thing.
Yeah, and actually it seems counterintuitive in a way, because you feel like you're shrinking your market, but actually the market's big enough to narrow it down a little bit. So we doubled down on our model. We implemented the verticals. We started to build out our senior team, which is really important. So pushing down responsibilities from me and Phil onto people below us, giving them more autonomy to lead. And
do you remember what specific stuff you shared, you offloaded?
Yeah, so I think the client services piece, then the sales piece, obviously. I think we changed the structure of our teams. So, sorry. We used to have managers that would manage teams that were all over the place, and it didn't really work. So we moved to teams managing only people that were on their clients.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, down here. Don't worry, we'll get the water down here. So you went from so you'd have a manager with people on site at loads of different clients.
Yeah.
To having, what if you've only got one person on a client, or do you not do that?
So we do that, but then it's their job to upsell the client.
Right. Okay.
That's their responsibility.
So they're a managerless
manager
entity.
Yeah. So we have different. That doesn't affect their progression or pay, because there's lots of different responsibilities. But we have different bandings of people. When people get to a certain level, they do management training and they become a manager. And then we try and make sure that in resourcing that they're on accounts that are multiple person accounts. So wherever we can, they're on an account that has multiple people. If for whatever reason they're not, we put them on an account that has the opportunity to grow. So then they're tasked with, okay, how do we build?
Do you have a basic sort of model that says, right, this many roles requires this many people?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we go in and we try and get as much information from the client as possible. So if they've got their full year hiring plan, 2 years hiring plan, no one ever has that, but as much data as you can, what their time to hire is, what their cost per hire is, what time to fill is, all that kind of stuff. And then we build a proposal based on that. And we say, look, this is what we're going to do for you. This is the team. This is what we're going to do to reduce these numbers. Historically, this is the data that we have. And build a really kind of compelling story for that client.
And do you find now that you've got that balance of people rolling off to create a team and also still having to hire to build new teams all the time?
Yeah, it's really challenging. So, because it's not just as straightforward as X person comes off, you put them on a new client, because every client's different. Every client's got a specific need and a specific skill set they need. So if that person that's come off isn't a specialist tech recruiter and we've got a tech client, they're not relevant. So it's about, we hired a head of resourcing and implementation recently who is managing that workflow of people coming off, people on the bench, people going on site with clients. but it is a delicate balance because obviously you want to minimize bench time as much as possible.
What do you do with these people when they are on the bench?
So we have about 95% utilization at the moment.
That's pretty good.
And that's historically what we've been staying at. But when people are on the bench, we have what we call Swift projects. And those are a mixture of internal projects that they can get involved in or client projects. So we might have a specific need on a client that needs an extra boost or that they can just tag onto an existing team and help support that for a period of time. Or
there's plenty to do, I imagine. That's the truth, right?
Exactly. And also, our aim is to over-deliver on accounts. So if we see a client that has a potentially large opportunity, we can add someone extra to that account to give it a boost. So we can then develop into that account a bit more.
One of the things I noticed about your brand, and we discussed a bit before the show, was about the brand itself and how you've evolved. And I think it was it about a year ago you did
about a year.
Yeah. Was, I remember seeing it and thinking, fucking hell, I like the look of that.
Yeah.
So what made you go through a rebrand and what was that process like?
Yeah, I think so. Phil, my co-founder, is really big on branding and marketing and the power of that, and I think that he's taken me on this journey to and also understand how powerful this is. And I think we really did spot a opportunity within recruitment in general, because it is one of those industries where everyone's kind of got the same tone of voice, everyone's saying the same stuff. It's relatively generic, there's no really standout brand, I don't think, or a cool brand that matches the companies we're working with. So if you're looking at the client base that we're trying to attract, WeWorks, Netflix, the Googles, there's not really a brand in the recruitment space that reflects those companies. So we really saw the importance of that and saw there was a niche that we could build there, and that's what prompted the
So you got in with quite a big branding agency to do that?
Yeah, so a company called Studio Koto. So they did Airbnb's rebrand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that must have cost you some money.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap. Yeah. I mean, it's completely opened my eyes to how expensive these things are, but actually it's worth it if you get it right. So, and the intrinsic value that it brings to your company, from an employer brand perspective, from a client perspective, it is massive.
But even the font is recognizable, I think.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I recognize your font now and I see it on the social post or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even need to know if it's you. I know it's you. Like,
yeah.
So building a management team that have been brought up with the business, how did you find, or what was your strategy around growing that? And did you ever think about bringing people externally above them? Or did you always go from, because that's one of the things I like to, a lot of recruiters, more than other industry, can bring a lot of young rookies in. Like, look at the Faden story.
Yeah.
Basically, a load of young grads came into a business, 800 staff later. It's the same people that started that have grown the company.
Yeah.
They rarely brought anyone external above them. Whereas yours is, because you said you brought in someone who had experience to jump straight on that first account. How did you play with that, and how have you managed that process?
So I think the ideal scenario for us is to go for people through the business, but that isn't always possible when you're growing so quickly.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
So, and I think you have to realize sometimes that the people that are with you at day one aren't the right people with you at year 4, and they don't necessarily want to be there at that point. So you have to realize that and be open and transparent with those people about that journey and what it's going to be like, and the changes that are going to happen. But wherever possible, we build people up and try to give them the tools and the experience to step up. And I think there's a lot of people in our organisation that started with us early on that are in the most senior roles in the company. You've got Alice, who is our...
So I used to work with Alice.
Yeah,
back in the day in Vanquist.
Yeah,
she was a good character.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She was great fun. And then when I met, I think, that was where I first saw the brand. I think she was one of the early hires, right?
Yeah, really early, yeah.
Because I remember obviously kept an eye on her, popped up on LinkedIn, Talentful, and I read it and I thought, that sounds well different. But I didn't really pay much attention. And then we caught up a couple of years ago and we started Hoxo. But it's good to see she's done well.
Yeah,
really
she is. There's people in the company that are crucial to the success of the business, and she's been with us from the start, and she's worn so many different hats, and she's the kind of person that will just get stuck in and isn't precious over what they're doing, and has really been crucial in the growth of the company, and now has grown into this leadership role in the business, and is doing an amazing job, and she is director of our Scale Up vertical now. Then you've got Liam, who joined, one of our first employees,
right,
who is now director of operations and strategy, and various other people who have started and moved up to manager positions. But then there was experience that we just didn't have internally. Like head of L&D, we didn't have that experience.
You can't necessarily develop that one.
Yeah, you have to get that externally. There is like our enterprise director, a guy called Dan Bigland, who recently joined from Amazon Alexa. We didn't have that expertise in-house, and I think enterprise as a function is very different to like startups and
so
scale-ups.
When you're selling an on-site model to an enterprise client, you're not taking their whole recruitment function, you're being part of a recruitment function. That's a completely different game then, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you even approach that?
Yeah, so I think and this is where I think our niche is, in a way, is that you've got the big RPOs who will go in and they won't take anything less than a global deal with like HSBC or some massive project. Then you've got contingency recruiters who do like more spot business, and there's nowhere really in this like SME space who are happy to do like statements of work and projects. So with enterprise companies, they have, let's say they have a hiring plan that is X 100 people for the year. It's going to be more than that, but 100 people. There will be a swing either way by about 20% most likely, because number one, people are bad at forecasting, and stuff happens that people don't expect, right? So they'll get a new project come in, they'll get some funding, they'll get some success, or the opposite will happen and stuff will go wrong, or they'll have some bad news, or the economy will change and they'll need to reduce their headcount. So having a fixed team in recruitment doesn't make a lot of sense for these companies. And actually there's a huge benefit in having flexibility either way. And I think that's where Talentful come in. We can come in, partner with your existing team, act as an extension. We look and feel like that team, right? Work on your systems. And if you need to scale up, we can add more people to the account. If you want to scale down, you can scale down as well. So there's a lot less risk with that.
Yeah, we're offering a very similar model to recruitment agencies where it's not an on-site model because of the cost implications. It's more like the base camp model, but it's still I put a post up the other day, right? If I went to a client the other day, they ended up signing with us actually, but their biggest gripe was we charge on average £30,000 a year, $2,500 a month. Pretty simple, right? In marketing, if you actually look at salaries, I mean, you'll know this from your business. What's a marketing salary at base level in London? 40k minimum, 45k. So we know if you go out to find someone with marketing experience that's going to come in and lead, like you said, you needed L&D. Most recruitment companies, if you want a marketeer, they don't know what they're going to do. They don't know the systems, the process, the budget. They need someone to come in and take control, but they're not prepared. Well, there's a lot of risk with that because you don't know. Again, you don't know them. Have they ever worked in recruitment? Are they going to fit in with the team? Shit, that desk could be a $200,000 biller, and then I've got to take him to the incentive. There's loads of reasons. But then this guy, well, we could take a 20k grad. I was like, well, you could, and a lot of people do. And he's like, but why? Well, why don't we just do that? And I was like, well, because it works in your recruitment team because you've got 10 years experience or 15 years experience to leverage. So when they come in and sit next to you, grad, it doesn't matter because you can, any question they've got, you know the answer. You take a 20-year-old grad who's marketing in the role you don't understand, and who fucking starts with who? Like, where does it go? So we might be 10 grand more, but we can give you the flexibility, but also the level of experience. And that, I think that's why we're working well. But enterprise is it a bit completely bigger solution, or is it a very similar solution just in a slightly different way? No,
it is different. And the challenge, and this is why we built the verticals and separated them out, because what a 50-person startup needs and what a 10,000-person enterprise needs are vastly different. And so we built our enterprise sales team. We've just brought in Steph, who was from HackerRank. She was a EMEA account director for them. And we've got Dan, who's ex-Google, ex-Amazon Alexa. And we're really building out our proposition for that enterprise vertical. Normally those accounts are more global. They have offices in various different locations that they need support with. It might be a specific project. Maybe it's tech hiring. Maybe it's diversity hiring. Maybe it's marketing, whatever it might be. And we come in and we slot into their existing recruitment teams. And it works really well. And I think that actually another thing that enterprises really struggle with is to get headcount signed off for perm hires. So when they use a supplier, they don't have to get the headcount signed off. So that's another benefit.
Like a consultancy budget.
Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of your office yourself and international growth,
Yeah.
how has that evolved? Because it's not all London, is it?
No. So yeah, this has been a big learning actually. So we went into Manchester first. The thinking behind that was someone approached us who was based in Manchester, a great network, and we saw a lot of potential in that person. So we're like, okay, we did a little market due diligence, little research. We're just like, this guy's great. Yeah. Let's go for it. And we thought that, okay, it's close enough that we can have control. This is our first time going to a new location, so we have the ability to react quickly, and we don't have to get on a 4-hour flight or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more low risk. So that went really well and scaled really quickly.
There's a lot of, I'm from Manchester, but I don't know the landscape that well from a business perspective. What is the landscape? I know you got Solver Keys and there's some tech companies, but is it a big enough market there?
No, so this is what we've experienced. The market is a lot different. Like London is a much more transactional in terms of business. If you've got a great product and you can do the job and someone has a need, they don't need to know you to buy that off you.
Yeah.
Whereas in Manchester, everyone knows each other. It's much more relationship based, much more a community. So you really have to build those relationships before you can sell in a lot of the time.
Okay.
And it doesn't have the volume. If you look at the level of investment in Manchester in comparison to London or Berlin or San Francisco, it's nowhere near, right? But they do have a few big players. So like, Booking.com's there. You've got, Bet365, big players like that. So it's been a really great
talent
experience.
As well. There's a lot of talent.
A lot of talent,
for
yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah, good talent. It's more low cost. Really awesome recruiters up there, and a great culture. Much more of a work-life balance up there. As a city, it's amazing, and our team there are great. But there hasn't been as much growth there because
what's it look like now?
So there's about 5 people.
Okay.
In Manchester,
Do you get them down to London a lot to feel the culture?
Yeah, so we bring those guys down as much as possible. They also sometimes have the experience of servicing accounts in different places. So Jodie, who's in Manchester, is currently on a New York-based client.
Wow. And
she's traveling over and working remotely for the rest of the time. Then we have Elise, who's on TransferWise in London. So, they get a lot of different experiences as well.
Yeah.
And they're really awesome recruiters. So, that's going really well, but it's not going to be, a super high growth office. And I think that in retrospect, it taught us lessons about the research we need to do before we launch into a new location. So it kind of works because we've got a really great team there, and it doesn't have to be, a super high growth office. But knowing the market opportunity in advance, we might have changed our strategy there. So when we went into a new location, i.e. Berlin was the next one.
When was that?
That was about 6 months ago.
Okay. So
we made sure that we hired a really strong director first, who was German speaking, who knew the market, who had a really great experience.
In-house or agency?
In-house and agency.
Right.
Yeah. And then we built the team around him. We already had existing clients. So we already had existing clients that we were working with, and what we used to do with clients in Berlin was do 1 week in Berlin, 1 week in London, 1 week in Berlin. People would fly over.
Really?
So we had a really good client base. We started to get a reputation. The volume of leads coming in was good. The amount of investment.
I bet you had clients in other like Amsterdam and Belgium or whatever. But
exactly.
That was the one that was screaming the most leads, the most need.
So we tested the European market this time, and we said, okay, where are we going to get the most success from? And Berlin was that place.
I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago with Peter Hart from Austin Fraser, and he opened their Munich office. And he said the biggest challenge they had was UK attitudes were great for keeping the culture aligned, but actually Germans don't respond to BD like we do. They don't respond the way that we do. So actually the localization of the talent and their ideas on, this is how we do things in Germany, actually was what enabled the business to grow. If they'd have carried on with the UK model of just, you can have a call with someone in the UK and not know them and open up the door. Over there, he said it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
How did you find that adaptation?
Yeah.
Because you got this guy who's not come from the UK business.
Yeah.
Leader.
Yeah. So we brought him over and onboarded him.
Yep.
Then I flew out to Berlin and spent a good amount of time with him to really kind of get him involved with the culture, understand how we do things. But I think, Munich, I think, is a bit different to Berlin.
Yeah.
Munich and Frankfurt and those kind of places are still very German. They have mostly German-speaking business language.
To be fair, I've been to Berlin and Munich, and I know what you mean straight away.
And Berlin is a lot more international, a lot more diverse. There's a lot more tech companies coming up and startups. So I think they're a bit more used to the UK way of doing things. However, it is really important to have an understanding of the culture because it is different. And the way they interact in business, what they expect, they're a lot more direct. And understanding how they work is really important. And that's why we brought on board a German national who's used to the market in Berlin.
And was there a tipping point in the business where you said, like, we need an office there? Did you have something that, like, I don't know, you're losing money or you thought you were leaving stuff on the table? How do you know when the right time to actually open new offices?
So I think it was, we look at how many leads we're getting in, and we were just not able to service the opportunities we were getting. And, we're big believers, and the whole reason we set the company up is because we believe in on-site recruitment, and that's the best way of doing things. And doing 1 week on, 1 week off wasn't optimal, because it's hard for consultants to do that. It's quite tiring, it's quite disruptive.
Affects their lives as well.
Exactly. And some people love it for a short amount of time, but after a 6-month project, they're normally done with it. So we really wanted to build our presence in the city. And also it's good for your brand, to be there on the ground. We can start running events. We can start building the culture. So we felt like, okay, this is the time to do it. We'd proven our model there. We'd started to get a bit of a reputation, started to get passed around, similar traction that we got in the UK and London when we started.
Really?
Yeah. And then we thought, okay, this is the right time. We've got a great director. We've got people in the UK that want to relocate.
So how did that office grow?
So we are close to 10 people in 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many of them have you brought in since going there from actual locals?
So we launched with 4 people, local people, and then we brought over 4 from London, and then we're just about to hire a few more by the end of the year. But another thing with Berlin is the market is super tight, especially for tech talent and recruiters as well. So our search is international for these people. So looking at places like Poland, Ukraine, Croatia, Portugal, Spain, Paris, bringing people into Berlin who want to relocate there because it's a great city. It's got great buzz, great vibe, great standard of living. So it's an attractive place for people to move.
Has Brexit had an impact on your decision to go there?
I think we did definitely. We're aware of Brexit and that having an office outside of the UK probably is important. But we haven't actually noticed an impact of it yet. I think when it was first announced, VCs got a bit worried and that there started to be less decisions being made for a couple of months. But then it just returned to normal. And I think because of the uncertainty, things are just BAU. And when we actually have a decision, that will be when the market goes one way or the other, I should imagine. Yeah,
well, we're all waiting for that. There was a debate last night. I didn't see it, but my business partner filled me in. Doesn't sound too exciting.
No, it wasn't exciting at all.
I'm staying out of the way.
Yeah.
Keep my flat cap on.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I think that leads us quite nicely onto so where you are today.
Yeah.
Is Berlin, London, Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in total?
We're coming up to 150. Yeah.
How many of them are back office and not doing any recruitment?
So about 20% of our staff are back office, and then the rest, 80%, are consultants.
So it's still got that recruitment agency vibe because you've got majority of, if you think about most, like you say, all the clients you work on, tech, finance, operations, marketing, and then it's like a small sales team. Whereas you guys, recruitment is your sales team, effectively, or your delivery team. Okay, so where are we heading next?
So I think that, from our side, we really want people to be proud of being recruiters. I think, recruitment is such an important part of the tech, the whole ecosystem, right? And we have the power to make companies a success. And actually the difference between the best companies in the world and the average companies are the people in them.
100%.
So recruiters have a huge responsibility. They should be really proud of the job they do. And they should really want and just be super excited about what they're doing. And I think that the opportunity globally for what we're doing is huge. And I think talent is the number one problem globally for companies. And you speak to any CEO, any founder, their biggest challenge is how do we get the best people?
Always.
So for us, we're solving that problem. And I think just looking at how we can do that in the best way possible, how we can transform companies' recruitment process, that's where we're going. And we eventually want to be in every major tech hub in the world. We want to be synonymous with high growth tech.
Just tech, or do you move out into other sectors or?
So we recruit everything within a tech company. So that could be product, marketing, sales, operations. But for now, the tech industry, and I'd argue that every company in the world is tech now, right? So it's maybe most companies in the world. It's maybe a broad industry.
I know what you mean, though. Yeah, it's moving that way.
Yeah, but for us, it's incredibly exciting. I think talent is, there's more innovation in talent in the last 5 years than I've noticed since I've been in recruitment. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's really exciting. And I think we want to be the kind of bellwethers for this solution. We want to be the people that are at the front, constantly innovating, being the best in the market and providing the best service to our clients.
So you talked about San Francisco.
Yeah.
Similar situation to Berlin, or is there why San Francisco and what's made the decision to do it now?
Sure. So this was actually, I think, so far the most structure we've had in launching, right? Because we'd learned from all the other locations. And if you look at London's investment, I think it's about 2.1 billion VC investment. San Francisco's 45 billion. So just the difference in opportunity there is huge. A lot of the clients that we work with in Europe are based on the West Coast because we're launching their European offices or we're working in their European offices. And they've said to us, come and do this on the West Coast. So there's an opportunity to launch with a few of our existing clients over there, which is nice. But also the market opportunity is clearly our sweet spot and it's huge. So what we've been doing over the last 6 months is we've been working with a strategy agency in the US that specialize in taking companies to market.
Wow.
And what they do is they spend 3 months researching and spending time discovering the market. So looking at your target client profile, working out your pricing. And we had a lot of assumptions that we'd made on the market based on our success in London. And we just wanted to test those with clients. So we've spoken to a whole bunch of clients, done a whole bunch of research to test actually, is what we're thinking true? And that's gone really, really well.
Is it true, or did you get a lot of new stuff out of it?
Yeah, some of it was true, some of it wasn't true. Yeah. And actually, there's a lot of nuance when you're going into it. Just the geography itself. America is massive.
Yeah.
How are we going to service clients? If we're based in San Francisco and someone from LA comes to us and said, "Can you work with us?" How are we going to do that? We had to think of logistics behind that. Costs are way higher there. Is the pricing going to work? Looking at stuff like. People are on at-will contracts, so they can hand in their notice and pretty much leave immediately.
Wow.
That creates some challenges. Also creates some benefits because it means we can start with clients quicker.
Yeah.
So just figuring that out. So there's lots of really important information that we've discovered, which is great. And then over the next 3 months, this company has narrowed down our target profile to be incredibly narrow. And they're going after that market and selling for the next 3 months. For us, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
So they're like an outsourced BD function for the US, but they're doing the calls, they're reaching out.
You believe that it feels like they're doing it as if they work for you.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. And then we are still involved. So we hired a GM for the US. So myself and Jack are still involved in the calls, right, and the pitches and stuff like that. And we just spent a week meeting potential clients. So we're still involved in the process.
You went to TechCrunch as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
I was watching Silicon Valley the same week you were there, and that feature, I don't know if you ever watched them.
Yeah.
I love that show. And they were at TechCrunch, and you were at TechCrunch as well.
Yeah, it's really cool actually. Yeah. We're doing Berlin TechCrunch in December as well.
Wow.
But it's really, really cool. It's a good opportunity, I think, for launching into new markets. Just even if you don't win business, just to speak to loads of people.
Get networks,
yeah. And just to figure out actually are people interested in this.
What was the response like at the event?
Yeah, really good. Really good. We had a few client meetings off the back of it. Whether they lead anywhere or not, who knows? But the feedback we were getting from people was really valuable. And just being there and being in the community and getting involved, I think is important. So yeah, really excited about that.
And you're going personally,
yeah,
to live there. Is it indefinite, or have you put yourself a time frame?
So obviously it depends. We could land and bomb, and then
you won't
have to go straight back. Hopefully, yeah, a good amount of time. Probably will come back to the UK at some point, but I want to support Jack, who's the GM, build out that initial team, build the culture.
What's Jack's background?
So Jack is actually a lawyer by trade. So he was at Qubit, which is like a SaaS analytics company, like Series C. They raised about 100 million. He was their general counsel, and he set up their New York office and then their San Francisco office. So he's actually been living in San Francisco for the last 3 years.
Right.
And then he's moved back over here. He's from the UK.
Right.
And I've actually known him for about 10 years. So he's one of my really good mates.
But he doesn't know recruitment?
Doesn't know recruitment, no. He does now. But
that's where you come in anyway.
Yeah.
The blend sounds great.
And he is, he's picked it up, right? And he's really got involved and really sees the benefits because he's gone through the recruitment process. And I think anyone who's either recruited for their own teams or been involved in recruitment in some way sees the benefit of Talentful. Yeah. So he can get involved in the mission and the journey, and he can really buy into it, which is important. But yeah, my job is to support him to get the first clients up and running, to do a great job and build the culture, and then hopefully it's up to Jack to take it to the next level.
Well, that's exciting. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
What's life been like? I mean, I know what my life's like.
Yeah.
I've got married. I've renovated a house.
Yeah.
I've got a dog. I'm like more fucking responsible. I've got more responsibilities now than I did when I started. I'm actually really glad I started when I didn't have any of that. I had a girlfriend that was soon my fiance, but I turned 30 and it was like I kind of light bulb went off in my head. I was like, I've got a property now. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
It'll get harder. But what's your life like outside of this?
Not as much responsibility as that.
Gonna take my dog for a week.
Oh mate, your dog is so cute. I'd take that any day. No, I mean, it's been pretty full on, right? And I think one of the things that I really underestimated when starting a company is just how like all encompassing it is. It takes over your life. You can't, get to sleep because you're just constantly thinking about work.
That's the time it gets me the most.
Yeah.
When I lie down.
When you're just in silence.
Yeah. She's like, go to sleep. I'm like, yeah, keep saying that. It doesn't make any difference.
Exactly. And I think that's like the unspoken thing about being a founder or being a leader in a business is that you are switched on 24/7. And you're checking your phone, you're getting calls from clients at 11 o'clock at night. You're having to, fight fires, and a lot of the stuff behind the scenes that no one sees that you're dealing with. I think that's been, the first, I guess, year 2 is when that really kicked in for me, and it was tough, right? And you're dealing with it, you're figuring out how you handle it yourself, and then as we've grown, I've kind of got more used to it. I've kind of settled down into it, and maybe just become a bit more like immune to it, really. But yeah, stressful, a lot going on, but I love it.
So where do you live at the minute?
Victoria.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got quite a central, so you're not far from work.
Yeah, exactly. So
have you got a girlfriend, partner, whatever? Like, you busy outside of work, or do you?
Gym. Got a girlfriend.
So you have got someone. Is she going to go to America with you?
Hopefully, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
You're not had that conversation yet.
I mean, visas. You've got to get visas, yeah.
Because that is a big one, isn't it? Like, moving across the world. Like, that was another thing that Peter Hart said was about the impact on his family. Like, he had 3 kids at the time. I think 3 kids. And like, going back and forward is not fucking easy, but it's a sacrifice you've got to make. And then he said when he opened up Austin, he'd go for like 2 months and take the whole family with him.
Yeah.
So if she goes with you, it's an adventure for you both.
Exactly. And I don't know how people do the 8-hour time difference, because you are literally waking up and everyone's, it's the end of their day.
Yeah.
So you've got no time to communicate.
No.
I think that's why a lot of companies obviously should go to the East Coast first, because it's a bit easier. But yeah, I mean, hopefully I've got my visa meeting on Tuesday at the embassy. So keep your fingers crossed for me.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, everyone, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And how's life changed now that you must, I mean, look, your business is turning, revenue 9 million in 4 years. You're onto something here, right? We don't have to be rocket science to know you're going in one direction. how's your life changed, like you financially and the way that you live your life? Has it really changed who you are and how you do what you do in your spare time?
Not really. No. I mean, work longer hours. Probably. No, I mean, obviously, you're more comfortable. I've been able to buy a flat in London, which is, I'm from a working class background. Thinking that would happen is, it seemed like miles off, right?
It's crazy, right?
Been able to do that, go on nice holidays, that kind of stuff. But day to day, no, I still do the same things I always do and I have done. Still have the same friends, I still like to do the same stuff. And I think it's that paranoia that keeps you grounded, thinking that at any moment it's just going to disappear. And I think being very aware that you need to keep focused and you need to keep going and to be successful, because you can't take it for granted. I think that's the main
100%
where I feel.
Where do you get inspiration? Like, what brands or people do you look up to in the market? It might not be recruitment; it could be any sort of business.
I get inspiration from anyone that's being successful or just going for something. Who's like committed to something, who's focused, who are like.
Is there any businesses or leaders that you do follow or know or get inspiration from that you can share?
So there's a lot of, because I'm dealing with founders all the time, and speaking to founders, there's a lot of founders in my network that I think are doing an amazing job, who definitely inspire me. And one of our first clients was a company called Elder.
Right.
And they had already, set up a company previously called Mop, which was a marketplace for cleaners.
Wow.
They'd sold it to an American company, and they'd started this new business. And they were two good mates, and they had this really good idea, and they'd learned from their previous mistakes, and they'd scaled this business. And they had a really firm idea of like what they wanted to do, what they didn't want to do this time, in hindsight. And I think that they've grown a really great business, and they're just lovely people. I think I love seeing people that are successful, that are down to earth, humble, nice people, who treat everyone else the same. And they're the people that I kind of look up to. And anyone who's just going for it, you setting up Hoxo and going for it and doing really well, that inspires me. I love seeing people from recruitment do well.
Yeah.
Because it's a tough job. It gets a bad reputation. I think for the wrong reasons. It does,
but do you know what? It changed my life. And that is the reason I care more than anything, is because it changed who I was. Like, similar to you, Blackpool, Manchester, working class background. Yeah. To buy a house in London in 18 months with just my commission, I was like, fucking hell, like, my family were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I got my older brother into recruitment because we went to Australia, and me and my little brother in recruitment were paying for everything. And he's like, what the fuck's going on here? Why am I the older one who's not? Yeah. Now he's like Oliver James, Manchester's top biller last year. And I genuinely love it. Like, whether I'm doing it or not, I think it plays such a big part in the economy, and it is a job to be proud of. I love seeing the disruptive recruitment firms, and I reckon I'm in a conversation every week now about a different way of pricing, or whether it's on-site, blended, whatever. There's so many ways to skin this cat, but equally, I really want to see people do well. Yeah. And I want these are the reason for this podcast, is to bring people together, to share ideas, and so we're all stronger. Yeah. What do you do in terms of upskilling yourself? Do you any books you've read that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I read quite a lot of books. Watch a lot of videos. I try and learn from people I meet. I try and ask them a lot of questions and try and absorb all their information.
What books have you read that you would recommend?
So I just read The Art of Strategy, which is quite good. It's like game theory, which is pretty good. I actually this is not related, but Why We Sleep I just read, which is actually really interesting, and something as a founder you should probably read, because you should get some sleep, basically, and how important sleep is, and the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Oh, I've not read that one, but
it's quite good.
My wife's got it at home, so I can have a look at that.
Scale. There's lots of books that I try and read. I think I've always been more of like a practical learner, so I never was good in lectures and sitting there and just for 3 hours and absorbing information. I get bored after 30 minutes, or an hour. I like to just do stuff, and if it fails, I learn from it. If it goes well, then great, and learn from people around me. And I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who are, positive, who are passionate about what they're doing, and just act as a sponge, you know. And I think hiring people, if you've got a weakness or you've got, you know, a gap in your knowledge, hire those people in the business. And I think having the approach of hiring people who are better than you is a good one to take, because then you.
That's what it's all about. Well, look, we've actually run out of time. But no. Chris, this is one of the longest episodes I've recorded. I've loved it. Look, thanks so much, mate. And I'm sure people want to reach out to you after this podcast and ask questions. Are you open to people doing that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and always LinkedIn the best place to get you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, everyone in our industry will be. So I'll tag you in everything that we do. And look, let's keep in touch. Let's see what you're up to. Bring you back on in a year or so. Let's see how San Fran. I hope you get the visa too. I hope it goes well. And that's it for another episode. So guys, hope you enjoyed it. As always, I ask, if you are listening to this show and you like what you're hearing, share comments on LinkedIn. It is the place we spend most time in our industry. Tag me, tag the rag, talk about your thoughts, opinions, and let's get more people listening, because the more people that listen, the closer we'll be as an industry, and the stronger we'll be. And if you're on iTunes as well, give us a rating, give us your thoughts, because that will allow the big boys at Apple to get our noise out there further. I'll be back again next Wednesday with another episode of The Rag, telling another founder's unique story of growth. See you soon.